Good morning and welcome to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Matthew in real life and Blind Run on the internet, and today we're going to be talking about cryptocurrency, specifically surrounding the FTX issues going on. Obviously, we've been talking about that in this news cycle for quite some time. That being said, the big concern now is not so much, well, at least from my perspective, not so much what has happened with FTX, but what is possible to happen with other cryptocurrency exchanges. Now, as a disclaimer up front, as always, I want to make it extremely clear that we do not condone on this channel ever holding any cryptocurrency within an exchange. Never have, never will. And that is because this is my third bull run bear market cycle. A lot of y'all have maybe experienced this before, but at the end of the day, when you hit the bear market and there's a ton of exchanges over leveraged or stuff starts getting sketchy, hacks happen, closing down happens of exchanges, all of this stuff starts to happen. And if you have any funds that you do not directly control with your own keys, you can basically lose those funds. So with that out of the way, we're going to try to do our best at covering essentially during this time any sort of problems that may arise via any centralized exchange that you should pay attention to in case you are currently actively trading on that platform. Because yes, I do understand people are actively trading on centralized exchanges, and that is why another reason why they may have some funds within those exchanges. In addition to that, though, there are decentralized finance options that you could move into for trading. However, they do have some fee issues because most of them are built onto, of course, Ethereum. So, for example, like if you're going to go over to Uniswap, you may want to utilize the Polygon side chain, but then that may be more exposed than others and so on. So I realize it can get a little complicated. There's also PancakeSwap, but that has exposure to BNB technically. These are a lot of things that breaking down is going to be very difficult to do. I'm going to try to do my best as we go through all of this content, and I thank everybody for being here. Welcome to a wonderful Monday. My week looks like this. Crypto Mining Show today. I have some meetings starting at 11:30. I also have a meeting tonight at 11 p.m. That being said, right now, what you should understand is that we are only doing the crypto morning or mining show today and tomorrow. So Monday and Tuesday of this week. Wednesday, I'll be flying out to Wisconsin for the ASIC miner training. ASIC miner training certification. And I will be out there with Scott's Crypto Mining. You can check out the links. I believe we'll update the links down below for you guys if you want to come join. There's also another one in December. I don't know if I'll be headed out to that one in December. I'll talk to Scott and let you guys know, as well as the new day job, which can be something that ends up taking up a lot of time, obviously. So I will be starting the new day job on the 28th of November, which means that the schedule for the Crypto Mining Show will shift. It will go from the mornings to the evenings. And that is because I will be working in the mornings. So we will be basically shifting the morning show, or the mining show, no longer the morning show, the Crypto Mining Show that we luckily rebranded a little while ago, to the Crypto Evening Mining Show. It'll just be the Crypto Mining Show in the evening. More than likely, that time will actually end up being extremely late. I am looking at my schedule, but due to chess club, jiu-jitsu, and a day job, we are looking at really only doing it 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, so cutting out Friday, and we will be doing it at around 9 p.m. Central Time. So that is kind of where I'm at right now with the schedule. And then I do intend to still do, of course, dedicated videos as I can. Initially, though, the shift is probably not going to have a lot of that. Obviously, this past weekend, I had 2 dedicated videos, ideas pretty much ready. We had all the testing done. I didn't get the video out, right? My life is shifting a lot right now. And because of that, I'm not getting the content out, but I will be dedicated to doing the crypto mining show so that we can keep up to date with the news with you guys, and that will be the shift there. We also will be moving over to rumble.com, more than likely for a game stream / our little after party stuff, and more details on that will be coming later this week, so stay tuned and I will get you guys the necessary links to participate over there. Let's go ahead and get into the news today. I'm not going to run any sponsorship ads or anything like that. We're just going to go ahead and YOLO straight into it. We got Crypto.com balance sheet is strong with minimal FTX exposure. That's what the CEO is telling us, right? This is coming from Watcher Guru. The crypto industry has been constantly hit with multiple crashes. The ongoing collapse of Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX has instilled extreme fear among the entire community. While several continue to speculate more downfalls of prominent exchanges, Crypto.com's collapse was being highly discussed. Over the last week, the exchange's native asset Kronos, or the CRO token, recorded a drastic drop of 43%. Following this, the community expressed concerns about another possible liquidity crisis. However, appearing in a recent interview, the CEO of Crypto.com, Chris Marsalek, affirmed that the exchange wasn't going anywhere. He said basically that they have $10 million, their exposure was limited to $10 million for FTX. It's coming out that there's more. We're going to be talking about that. So he says, additionally, we acknowledge the flow of funds between FTX and Crypto.com, which was revealed, and they have apparently recovered $990 million from FTX, which is actually pretty surprising to believe, right? So where does that come from? That actually came from a little thread over here where, not this one, excuse me, we're going to talk about that in just a second. Let me see if we can get the threads pulled up right. So after some transaction ID digging, FTX has received around $1 billion worth of USDC from Crypto.com. And that is brought up, obviously, a lot of concern surrounding Crypto.com because, as you guys know, you can't really get your money back out right now. And this actually went all the way up to just 12 days ago now at this point, with a huge $2 million value deposit. I mean, I guess their largest was around 3.5 million overall. Is that right? No, they have some down here for what? 40 million, 10 million, 10 million. They have a lot of exchanges with them. Where basically these are all the transaction IDs from Crypto.com, which was really causing a lot of the fear and uncertainty surrounding Crypto.com. And I think that's a valid fear, right? At the end of the day. Now, they say that they've recovered 990 million of it from FTX. And that's kind of, I think we could go through possibly transactions at some point, but it looks like those transactions are getting obfuscated. So that's another weird thing that's been going on, is that a lot of the FTX money that after post-hack are going through things like Tornado Cash and mixers and so on, making it harder to track. Obviously, par for the course with cryptocurrency exchange hacks, though. So at present, withdrawals have been functioning normally on the platform with the exception of assets related to Gala, SRM, and as well as Ray. Further affirming that the business was cash flow positive, he added, "We're never going to raise funds." Crypto.com CEO addresses the $400 million mishap. So actually, funny enough, if you guys don't recall, this is going to be the second time that Crypto.com has accidentally sent cryptocurrency to the wrong address. They did this a while ago, earlier this year, and they've done it again now. So on Sunday, Marsalek revealed that the exchange had accidentally sent a whopping 400 million worth of Ethereum to the wrong wallet address. Even though it was returned, the community expressed concerns. In the interview, the Crypto.com CEO noted the funds were not at no risk of being lost. The system would not allow us to send money somewhere it can't be recovered. In order to transmit these scales, all addresses must be whitelisted and authorized, according to Marsalek. The money was returned after Gate.io increased the corporate account's daily transfer limit, and the intended address was Crypto.com's corporate account at the payment processor. And this is where things come into question, because the accidental send and everything that was going on was actually to Gate.io, which is another cryptocurrency exchange. And then what we find out essentially is that, and this is absolute insanity, boys, but exchanges appear to be sharing reserves. This is another Twitter thread. But Crypto.com sent 320K ETH to Gate.io, and then the amount is returned 1 week later. So this is exactly the window in which Gate.io got its proof of reserves audited. So essentially what happened here is we have it's actually tweet is unavailable now, which is interesting. So we'll have to hopefully we have it up right now. I'm going to tell you guys what was happening here. Can we even pull up? Okay, we can pull that up. Can we pull this up? And the only thing we can't pull up is the original tweet, which had the actual transaction in it. Okay, so we can't pull up. We'll have to pull this transaction up, right? And I don't like I said, this is going to be a little bit of we can't prove much other than what we can see is this. We know that essentially on October 21st is when it was sent back or sent to. Is that correct? Or is that when that was posted? Yeah. October 21st is when it was sent to Gate.io. And the proof of reserves assessment report was on October 28th. And then it was sent back to Crypto.com at that time. So what we're finding is that there is a possibility that what's been going on is that reserves are being shared. Now, to be fair, there was a response from Chris, who said it was supposed to be a move to a new cold storage address, but was sent to a whitelisted external exchange address. We worked with Gate team and the funds were subsequently returned to our cold storage. That's what we were talking about earlier. So this accidental send is just conveniently sent to Gate.io when they're going through proof of reserves. So the other thing that I want to talk about is because there's a big push for proof of reserves. And I think to a certain extent for centralized exchanges, it makes sense. Meaning I get it. You have essentially a group of people that go through and audit centralized exchanges and send out what the reserves are. However, as we know with everything else in life, that can be highly manipulated and it isn't necessarily indicative of, whether or not the exchange is over leveraged in certain areas, whether or not those reserves were actually there. That I think you need to do on-chain data for that. And that's kind of where things get weird, right? So, another person on Twitter went ahead and looked into this and said, confirmed Crypto.com accidentally sent 320K ETH of user deposits to Gate.io on October 21st. And October 28th, Gate shows proof of reserves and then sends 285,000 ETH back. This was topping the proof of stake in Gate.io. Topping up for the proof. So essentially they were topping up for the proof is the accusation. And basically Crypto.com was, there's possibly here a tinfoil hat, right? We'll throw that on. There's possibly here a little bit of cooperation between exchanges to boost reserves, right? That's the accusation that's being thrown out. Which, if true, would be absolutely insane. Simply insane, one might say. We talked about this on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/blindrun, which will soon be moving to Rumble. But Crypto.com's preliminary glimpse of token reserves reveals... We'll mute that. I want to leave my phone on because I do have some calls to answer. Crypto.com's preliminary glimpse of token reserves reveals 20% in Shiba Inu coin. We covered this on Twitch already, but a large exchange, basically Crypto.com, has 20% in essentially Shiba Inu token, which, as anybody that's been in cryptocurrency for a while, pretty disappointing. But I wanted to kind of back up crypto.com in this particular case, because people need to understand that the token allocation here is specifically related to the amount of crypto that users are holding within their wallets. Crypto.com being one of the, largest exchanges to appeal to the meathead crowd with UFC and so on, which I think like there's a ton of people, smart people in UFC, by the way. I'm just kind of, saying like the crowd is large, right? And the biggest thing that everybody looked at was like, oh, Doge, what's the next Dogecoin? And then they were tricked into buying Shiba Inu, in my humble opinion, because it's like Shiba Inu sounds like the new Dogecoin, without understanding that SHIB is just a token and Dogecoin is a full-on blockchain. And without understanding the difference between the two, they just went, full ham into it, and they downloaded crypto.com and they bought a bunch of SHIB. If you are an exchange, your job is to hold all of the coins, in my humble opinion, that your users are purchasing. So if you have 20% of the user wallets being made up of SHIB, then you would prefer that they had essentially 20% of their reserves in SHIB. That's my humble opinion. It should be a 1-to-1 ratio. That's all the exchange's job should be. And to make money, they should take fees, which from my understanding is true from crypto.com. That aside, of course, we still should keep them accountable and continue to pay attention to what's going on with the rest of everything with the companies, all the exchanges, Gate.io, maybe crypto.com is in a good position, but Gate.io wasn't. I still don't agree with basically crypto.com essentially bailing out Gate.io. That sort of stuff is pretty scummy. But that's kind of if it is the case, right? But it's hard to prove it, and I don't even know if we ever will prove it. Right now, it's important to also point out that what we are seeing in general is, as far as the news cycles go, if there is a negative news cycle surrounding any individual coin, any individual exchange, any individual within cryptocurrency, they completely deflect to FTX immediately. If there are unscrupulous actions being taken by certain people within different communities surrounding cryptocurrency and they get caught right now, it's just, oh, well, look at FTX. Why aren't you worried about FTX? And that is kind of, the amount of news that is being focused on FTX that is distracting from other things that are happening within cryptocurrency could result in other things blowing up, in my humble opinion. And so trying to focus on everything and dig through the FTX swamp to make sure that we're paying attention to everything else that's going on can be quite difficult. That being said, we are going to talk about FTX a little bit more because the wrapped tokens issued by FTX or Alameda slumps no longer is redeemable. And this is important because this includes Bitcoin, right? So according to data from CoinGecko, wrapped Bitcoin on Solette is down by over 60% in the past 24 hours, falling from its native Bitcoin current 16,811. In contrast, wrapped ETH on Solette is also down by only about 8% to 1209 over the same 24 hours. Native ETH is trading at 1261. Notably, for both wrapped tokens, SOETH and SOBTC, CoinGecko is displaying a warning notice on its website that reads, SOBTC tokens are wrapped Bitcoin tokens issued by FTX or Alameda. Both these entities have filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and the BTC tokens are no longer redeemable. Now, the problem here is what this apparently means as we get through it is that the Bitcoin that was getting wrapped for the network for obviously FTX or issued by FTX was not actually Bitcoin. There is a little bit of, as far as like trying to understand exactly what it is that was backing up the value of the wrapped Bitcoin is still up in the air. It doesn't appear to necessarily be just the FTT token, But at this time, it's suffice to say, it should be noted that wrapped Bitcoin on centralized, finance, like CeFi, centralized, decentralized finance, centralized finance and cryptocurrency, extremely confusing, right? But any of these entities, if they are issuing their own token, if they're issuing their own wrapped version of cryptocurrencies, they shouldn't be trusted. There is a huge difference, though, between what FTX wrapping Bitcoin and, let's say, something like wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum or wrapped Bitcoin on Cardano or Ergo, right? Where the reserve is actually set up within the smart contracts, and you can follow the smart contract and see that it's a Bitcoin 1-to-1, and that is basically all auditable. Frankly, you should be doing that audit yourself too before you go into utilizing wrapped Bitcoin or any wrapped token on a decentralized exchange, but you have the ability to actually see the contracts and figure that out. In the case of a centralized exchange, you don't really have the tools to actually vet all of that out unless they provide them to you. So now that we're in a case where essentially all of these Bitcoin tokens are not redeemable because they don't appear, like, basically they aren't backed by anything because the company that issued them is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, right? So wrapping tokens such as one for Bitcoin or Ethereum on Solana make these assets available for usage on the Solana blockchain so users can hold or trade them instead of actual Bitcoin or Ethereum. Founder of RockTapp or something like that, RockTapp, there we go, an open source portfolio tracking app, commented on these wrapped assets, saying since most Solana wrapped assets were custodied by the now collapsed crypto exchange FTX and Alameda Research, means the wrapped tokens are no longer redeemable and will probably go to zero. Reactions concerning the wrapped assets were just individuals trying to warn others that the wrapped tokens were not real tokens. A tweet with the pseudonymous Meow tweeted blah, blah, blah. So far, the news concerning the collapse of FTX keeps getting worse and blah, blah, blah. So, lesson is that any CeFi that is basically wrapping, any centralized entity that is wrapping coins should not be trusted, right? That's pretty much it. There is the argument that they did back it with Bitcoin, but because of the bankruptcy, everything that was wrapped or all that Bitcoin was removed anyways. Not to mention also we have the hack to basically be concerned with. But if there's no contract holding that cryptocurrency that is wrapped in place in an auditable fashion, there should be no reason for you to participate within it. And this is on a big network. That does mean there is some contagion risk, in my humble opinion, to a coin itself, which is Solana. And I think that paying attention to Solana and being very cautious surrounding it is of utmost importance, because if we talk about collapses, what would be really interesting this time around is we've always seen large exchanges go down, but we haven't seen a large cryptocurrency necessarily go down in the same manner that an exchange goes down, basically because of centralization. We'll see like plenty of cryptocurrencies go down in a bear market, but Solana would be like the first like massive one that would crash from essentially contagion from an exchange directly, which would be simply insane. It not too dissimilar from the ICO collapse, I suppose, of 2018, but it would be unique this time around. Now, we should talk about Coinbase, because Coinbase did have some exposure, but according to everyone and their mom, it does appear that they're fairly insulated. Goldman cut Coinbase price target to $41, says exchange is fairly insulated from FTX collapse. Goldman maintained a sell rating on coin, revising lower its 12-month price forecast to $41 from $49. The US-based cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase is sufficiently insulated from the fallout of the FTX collapse, Goldman Sachs said on Friday. Goldman took a bearish stance on Coinbase's stock, cutting its price target to $41 from $49 and maintaining its sell rating. The Wall Street giant also sees FTX's collapse having a limited impact on trading and investing app Robinhood, as crypto-related revenues counted for just 9% of the platform's total revenue. Goldman analysts revised the 12-month price target for Robinhood stock hood from $13 to $12.50. Coinbase's highly liquid balance sheet and lack of proprietary trading activities shield the NASDAQ-listed exchange from ramifications of FTX's situation. Goldman's equity research team said in a note sent to clients on Friday. The team expects FTX-induced market volatility and investor unease about less regulated exchanges to bode well for Coinbase in the near term. Here's the weird thing about that statement, that less regulated, it will be worse for less regulated exchanges, when FTX, like literally the CEO of FTX was working with the SEC directly to come up with a regulatory body for cryptocurrency. And then they basically want to say, that the less regulated exchanges are the issue. Which is just comical in the first place, right? That you have Sam Bankman-Fried working with Gary Gensler to basically come up with regulations surrounding cryptocurrency, and yet in the background, FTX is basically running the biggest money laundering scheme that's ever been known to man, and that's who's coming up with the regulation. And then they come out and they're like, but the less regulated exchanges are going to perform worse. And it's like, bro. We have also updated our 2022, 2023, and 2024 revenue estimates from $3.26 billion, $3.18 billion, $3.34 billion to $3.29 billion, $2.71 billion, and $2.76 billion, analysts noted. Last week, Brian Armstrong, the CEO of crypto exchange Coinbase, noted that the exchange does not have significant exposure to FTX. Its native token FTT and FTX's sister concern, Alameda Research. SBF's FTX filed for bankruptcy on Friday, sending shockwaves across the crypto industry. And so the question is, right, how much exposure did Coinbase have? I only have this this is actually from November 9th, and it does say that Coinbase had 15 million of deposits on FTX, and apparently that was acquired by Binance. So leading cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase has clarified that it only has 15 million worth of deposits on FTX to facilitate business operations and client trades, as it faced a partial outage. In its bid to provide clarity, the company said, regardless of whether the Binance and FTX transaction completes, we have very little exposure to FTX, and we have no exposure to its token FTT. We have no exposure to Alameda Research, and we have no loans to FTX, Coinbase said in a blog post late Tuesday. The clarification came as Binance on Tuesday announced a non-binding letter of intent to acquire FTX for an undisclosed sum. And then basically that didn't go through, if you recall, but Coinbase's exposure, like we said, was 15, I wanted to find, right, because they say that they're limited, was 15 million, excuse me. Yeah. So they had 15 million of deposits. None of those were locked up in loans or anything like that. As far as large exchanges go, Coinbase and Binance appear to be in the best position, at least at first glance. Of course, vetting this out becomes a lot more difficult, right? Because as we see with crypto.com, there are things that look correct from a reserves perspective, but then we say, hold on, where are these funny reserve games being played? You accidentally sent 400 million to Gate.io right before their proof of reserves come out. Then you have like this $1 billion exposure that you say you got all back, but there's no on-chain data proof of that. So even if it's hard to take anything at face value. So we're going to go back and reiterate, not your keys, not your crypto. Make sure that you're securing your crypto in some sort of wallet that you control. At the very least, I mean, it could even be just something as like MetaMask, at least get it off of centralized exchanges, unless you're actively trading. But I mean, even at this point, like actively trading is probably not something I would do. Not financial advice, it's just actively trading on a centralized exchange seems to be something that is extremely risky, because at any point you could just, like, let's say you had a late trading night, you don't move it out before you go to bed, plus all the fees that you get kicked by. But so you don't want to move it out, you go to bed, you wake up, and the next day you can't pull any of your currency out, right? So it's just like trading in general seems to be a higher risk, right? And that is kind of where it's at. Now, GameStop also has some exposure to FTX, funny enough. And they're going to end the FTX.US ties and refund customers. GameStop customers with FTX gift cards will be given refunds. Video game retailer GME plans to end its relationship and its pilot gift card marketing partnership with FTX.US after the crypto exchange filed for bankruptcy protection. GameStop, one of the key players in the meme stock craze 18 months ago, said in a tweet Friday that it will be giving refunds to any impacted customers. The two firms announced their partnership in September to promote interaction between gaming and crypto community, and said certain GameStop stores would carry FTX gift cards. Shares of GameStop was up about 5% on Friday. All right. So, I mean, obviously, like, it's kind of perfect for anybody that was upset with the general public making money off of stocks or cryptocurrencies. Because this affects, like, literally everybody that was essentially participating in any of the meme stock craze. It targets decentralized finance in general. But what's funny is it all comes from a centralized entity, right? You have FTX, this centralized entity, and then they come out and they say, well, obviously we need to regulate all this decentralized stuff. And this coming down on GameStop, obviously, like, where GameStop was a big, GME, the meme stock stuff was a huge push from the regular Joe, I feel like, and they're being impacted by this as well. It's really interesting stuff. Hong Kong, though, isn't doing well either. Funny enough, Hong Kong crypto platform HBit, specifically 18.1 million stuck in FTX in an announcement to shareholders on Monday. Hyo Technologies Holdings Limited said regarding its subsidiary that 13.2 million of the money belonged to clients, while 4.9 million were HBit assets. Hong Kong-based digital asset platform HBit Limited is unable to withdraw 18.1 million worth of cryptocurrencies deposited in the now bankrupt FTX. In an announcement to shareholders on Monday, New Hyo Technologies Holdings Limited said regarding its subsidiary that 13.2 million of the money belonged to its clients from trading requests, while 4.9 million were HBit assets. As FTX group entities, including FTX, has filed for bankruptcy protection in the United States on the 11th of November 2022, the cryptocurrency assets may not be withdrawn from FTX, the statement read. The collapse of the FTX crypto exchange has sent shockwaves across the crypto industry. The FTX's trouble has caused the crypto market to tumble and the crypto community to worry about how the entire industry will be impacted. Crypto exchange Crypto.com said it had $10 million exposure to FTX, and Genesis, a trading firm, said it had $175 million in locked funds in its FTX trading account. Plus, many others have reported having exposure to FTX. We did look at the full exposure to FTX in the past, but it is important to go ahead and look at that list. If you guys have not yet, I've covered it over on Twitch, and we covered it last week. But there is a lot within cryptocurrency in general, and even outside of cryptocurrency that is directly related. I mean, all the way to like something like Yuga Labs, which is the big NFT company, is related. And of course, that is going to eventually lead to regulation. And Janet Yellen is on it. She says that FTX collapse exposed weakness in crypto. The U.S. Treasury Secretary said the crypto sector is in need of very careful regulation, while some lawmakers are preparing to propose tougher rules. And to a certain extent, like, man, it's like a perfect storm. If you wanted to regulate crypto, this is so weird. It is very odd to have essentially the reason to regulate crypto be the one, FTX being the reason to regulate crypto was the primary driver behind pushing for regulation to the cryptocurrency community in the first place. In the aftermath of crypto exchange FTX's fall from grace, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said the industry needs very careful regulation, Bloomberg reported on Saturday. It shows the weakness of this entire sector, Yellen said, referring to the collapse of Sam Bankman-Fried's multi-billion-dollar enterprise, the same one that was just months ago looking to rescue another embattled crypto firms from the market crash earlier this year. The U.S. government is already looking into regulating the industry under an executive order from President Biden, which we have covered on this channel, and I highly recommend reviewing. In the months leading up to the collapse, Bankman-Fried said he'd spend time conversing with lawmakers and regulators in Washington, D.C. ahead of midterm elections. But after the exchange was locked in a liquidity crunch and quickly unraveled, Senator Sherrod Brown and Senator Elizabeth Warren called for investigations. And that is just, it's wild to see. Like I said, what you have here is Sam Bankman-Fried working, and pushing for regulation, telling the cryptocurrency industry that it needs to accept regulation, and then being the largest offender to collapse the entire thing, and then that being the reason to basically regulate and have more stringent regulations surrounding cryptocurrency. And it's important to understand that to get into a position to regulate something or create rules for something, par for the course has been to create fear surrounding it, right? I mean, this can go all the way back to things like September 11th. You have fear whether or not, it was directly inflicted intentionally by the government or was just an opportune moment to seize it. You end up with rights infringing policies such as the Patriot Act. You see the collapse of FTX, and we will probably see right infringing policies such as restricting your ability basically your ability to hold and possess digital currencies. And this is where we move towards. And it's very important that when you see it, make sure that you pay attention to what it's clearly saying, because I have a feeling that it will end up being rights infringing to a certain extent. Now, does that mean you forego all? Am I basically advocating for foregoing all regulation? No, not necessarily. Obviously, with like a centralized exchange, it should be heavily regulated, in my humble opinion, because you're still interacting with essentially the legacy fiat system, right? However, what it will be utilized to do is to directly attack decentralized currency. So we're looking at the failure of a centralized entity and using that as reason to regulate a decentralized entity. And that is where we run into danger, right? That you need to pay attention to. I've seen people basically say that we need to regulate because, regular users can't hold their own cryptocurrency. I think regular users can learn to hold their own cryptocurrency, and I am an advocate for personal responsibility when it comes to your finances. With great power, like control over your own finances, comes great responsibility, and I still stand behind that statement. that we've made plenty of times on this channel. Let's talk about some mining news, though. Canaan Q3 net income drops 88% as Bitcoin mining declines. Negative market dynamics have caused a reduction in net income, revenue, and computing power sold in the third quarter of this year. Canaan, a producer of Bitcoin mining equipment, said third quarter net income slumped 88% to 61.1 million won from the year earlier period amid what it called negative market dynamics as the price of Bitcoin slipped to about $16,000. Total computing power sold dropped 48.5% to 3.5 million terahashes per second, while revenue fell 26% to 978.2 million won, the Beijing-based firm said in a statement Monday. Several mining firms have felt the squeeze over the past few months, notably data center provider Compute North, which filed for bankruptcy in September, while Ergo Blockchain and Core Scientific both faced liquidity issues as of writing. Quote, the Bitcoin mining market deteriorated during the third quarter as Bitcoin price fluctuated and further dipped to around $16,000 recently. CEO Nanjing Zhang, there we go, Nanjing Zhang, there we go, I think, maybe, said in a statement, the negative market dynamics have significantly hindered Bitcoin miners' revenues and cash flows. As miners are forced to cut their demand for computing power, we had to adjust down our selling price in response. James Zhang, there we go. Whoo! Canaan's CFO said market conditions are expected to continue deteriorating in light of Bitcoin's downward trajectory, rising energy prices, and miners under increasing cash pressure. Canaan's NASDAQ-listed shares fell 0.37% to $2.8 million probably. Just $2.80 for the actual shares. Got it. In pre-market trading on Monday. All right. So we have even more Bitcoin miners struggling. I do think that a lot of miners are going to have to shut down. Me personally, I have everything off but my Bitcoin miners, and my Bitcoin miners are just solo mining. And then now, because I'm out at the farm, I'm leaving most of my mining rigs off, because if I need to test something, I just walk back there and turn it on and test it and then walk back out. So it's a little easier there. I can save some more money on power, which is clearly advantageous. But, you know, it is at a point to where mining is highly unprofitable, and I think we're going to start to see more mining companies collapse. My gut tells me that Marathon Digital will probably be okay, for example. And Riot Blockchain will probably be okay, for example. But I can't predict the future. Data tracked by Glassnode shows the number of Bitcoin held by miner wallets has dropped to a 10-month low. This is par for the course. Nothing new here. Usually in a bear market, this is what you see happen. Bitcoin miners, or entities generating the cryptocurrency, seem to be running down on their coin stash amid the FTX-induced market panic. In the past 7 days, the balance held in miner wallets was declined by 9,402 Bitcoin to a 10-month low of 1.826 million Bitcoin, according to data tracked by blockchain analytics firm Glassnode. The miner net position change, where the 30-day change of Bitcoin supply held in miner addresses, slipped to 10,972 Bitcoin on Thursday, the lowest since early January. Bitcoin miners solve complex blah, 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 blah. You guys are familiar with how mining works. Bitcoin fell by 22% in the 7 days to November 13th, its biggest decline since June, as the collapse of Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX exchange dented investor confidence and triggered contagion fears. The sell-off could continue in the days ahead, analysts told CoinDesk. That would worsen the situation for miners who have been facing high operational costs. Bitcoin mining companies have struggled this year with the fall in price of the largest cryptocurrency and rising energy prices and operating costs, leading to a decline in revenue. As a result of this, mining firms have been heavily selling their underlying holdings, leading to significant net outflows over the last 6 months, data provider CryptoCompare said in the October review. According to Blockware Solutions, a continued BTC price slide towards $15,000 would not necessarily see miners immediately turn off their machines. Charles Edwards, CEO of asset manager Capriole, recently voiced a similar opinion on Twitter, saying Bitcoin's electrical cost has been breached for the second time only in 5 years. The electrical bill for the average miner is now greater than the income earned. Many Bitcoin miners are now turning their rigs off, Edwards added. According to Blockware Solutions, a continued Bitcoin price slides towards $15,000 would not necessarily see miners immediately turn off their machines. Quote, many miners have PPAs, power purchase agreements, and hosting contracts that require them to consume energy or potentially pay an additional fee. Many miners will likely continue mining at a loss in the short term until either the price of BTC goes back up or they exit their operation altogether. Now, to give you guys an idea, power purchase agreements for large miners, like let's say you have a 5 megawatt facility, and there's a portion of it that you would have to have turned on and pay for the whole year over average. Typically, like it's going to be somewhere around 30% or something like that. Like let's say it's a 6 megawatt facility, you're probably looking at 2 megawatts having to remain on for an entire year. So if you're a Bitcoin miner, you may have to shut off, 60% or 70% or so of your mining rigs, but you will be forced to run a certain amount of them. The scale problem for Bitcoin is kind of interesting, right? Like economies of scale is really interesting when you get too greedy because you can collapse on this house of cards, right? And there is potential here that a lot of big miners collapse. It wouldn't necessarily be the biggest negative in my humble opinion because it would force more decentralization. Large companies that build up basically large mining firms that mine a majority of the Bitcoin that is released into the network is not the path forward that I think is most beneficial for cryptocurrency in general. I think more decentralization. I would rather see every single individual in the world have one Bitcoin miner installed into their air ducts for furnace or for heating, right? Their homes in the winter. Then I would rather see even my own large mining firm mine a bunch of Bitcoin and make a bunch of money just for myself, right? That's kind of like my thought process behind it. Essentially what I'm saying is I'd rather run a company that installs some sort of heating offset reduction for customers than I would own maybe a large mining farm at this point, because that's where I would push towards for a principled standpoint or from a principled standpoint. So there you go. Now, let's go ahead and talk about mining profitability for the day. I am going to run this ad just because I need to pause and blow my nose. So we're going to do that, and I'll be right back. Today's sponsor is myself. To support the channel, click the join button below the video, and you will get access to our privately hosted Rocket Chat. Selecting the $1.99 option will get you access, and after that, you need to head over to the membership tab, scroll down, and expand out your membership perks. Find the section for connecting on social media, and in that section, there will be a secret registration URL to join Rocket Chat, where you can sign up to enjoy talking with other cryptocurrency enthusiasts and miners without spammers, scammers, or bots. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. First things first, RTX 3090 hash or power or profitability or lack thereof at 10 cents a kilowatt hour with corrected ZIL hash, Kapal, ProgPal, and Firo proof of work. Right now, it appears you lose the least amount of money mining Caspa of all things, losing 25 cents a day. Moving on from there, you got Xano losing 38 cents a day and Ravencoin losing 44 cents a day. Raya losing 27 cents a day. Conflux losing 44 cents a day. Vertcoin losing 26 cents a day. Firo losing 41 cents a day. Neoxa losing 47 cents a day. Meowcoin losing 47 cents a day. Ergo losing 33 cents a day, thanks to, of course, its low power consumption on Autolicos V2. And Ethereum Classic losing 50 cents a day. Something definitely set my allergies off today, so apologies for these frequent pauses. I'm trying to get everything kind of cleared out. All right, so next we have hash rates and all of that. If we take a look at Bitcoin, we're down 20% over the past 7 days in price. However, it's up in difficulty and hash rate. It's at 280 exahash a second. I guess that's a little bit down from the 291 earlier, or the 290 about last week. So technically down 10 exahash a second. Still up overall. The difficulty is still remaining high as well. If we look at Ethereum, the hash rate is at 154 terahash a second. No big changes. Ethereum Classic specifically, excuse me. And it's down similar, basically following Bitcoin price by 20%. Ethereum Proof of Work is down further than Bitcoin over the past 7 days, losing 37% in its price, and it's sitting at 28 terahash a second. Ethereum Fair is following suit with Bitcoin at losing about 20% over the past 7 days, and it's sitting at 4.13 terahash a second. Taking a look at Flux, we are down to 6.1 mega solutions a second. It's fallen further out of grace than Bitcoin at losing about 40% over the past 7 days. And I did want to address that just for everybody. Like, you have to realize that Flux has a few things that kind of put it in a position where it gets exposure to more, Flux essentially gets more exposure to the negatives and the positives of multiple currencies, right? So because of the issues with Solana and their partnership with Solana, they had to deal with that. Because of their partnership with Terra Luna and that sort of thing, they had to deal with that. On top of that, you have Zelcore, which is technically does have centralized portions of it, and that is a wallet that is, the only thing you can hold your Flux in, unfortunately. You can control the keys to a certain extent or export your wallet and import it and that sort of thing. But I think that Flux in general has some exposure that makes it not as good of a play, right? If we take a look at Ergo, it's following suit with Bitcoin at losing 22% over the past 7 days. It has seen some hash rate drop off. It's around 41 terahash a second. And then if we take a look at Caspa, rocking the Casbah, it's up 35% over the past 7 days and is at an all-time high for hash rate at 203 terahash a second. ASIC miner profitability, Antminer L7 in first place at $5.50 a day after power. iPolo V1 is sitting at $11.76 a day on Easel. And the Jazzminer X4 is sitting at $11.69 a day on Easel. Scrolling down from there, we have the Antminer E9 also, as well as another ET hash or ETC hash with iPolo V1 Classic. Finally, we get down to the Goldshell HS3 for Handshake, sitting at $3.32 a day on Handshake, and the iPolo G1 sitting at $2.39 a day after power. Finally, we always like to look at the Antminer S19 Pro just to get an idea, and it's only making a penny a day on Digibyte, and actually looks like after 10 cents a kilowatt hour, it's losing money on Digibyte. So is that correct? That is correct. Okay. Yeah, so there's no money to be made at 10 cents a kilowatt hour anywhere this time. Okie doke. Welcome back. Gandalf, check your power or your stuff. Yeah, I'm showing sound is working. I'll double check it over here. And let's get into questions and answers for the day. Remember, super chats are your power. There we go. It is for sure working. Super chats are never required. Always appreciate first to be answered because they're the easiest to read. In addition to that, if you tag at Son of a Tech, it will highlight the message orange, making it easier for me to read. So there you go. If you guys do not have any questions for the day, that's fine by me. I can go ahead and get ready for my meetings for the day. and we can get back. I would like to see some more likes as well. We're under 100 likes with over 270 concurrent viewers right now. So if you can hit the likes, that would be much appreciated. Come on, 100 likes. All right, Misa's question, when Lambo. Tag that son of a tech, guys. All right, I think we're just going to call it. Everybody's having a rough day, I guess. CryptoMan5000 says, at son of a tech, if the U.S. gets hit with a recession, how would that affect crypto? Well, the U.S. did get hit with a recession, and the Democrats are just lying about it. To be fair, the Republicans would lie about it, too, if they were in office. So I should just say our government's lying about it. However, I have found, Sam Bankman-Fried being the second largest single donor to the DNC, Democratic National Convention in the United States, and the partnership with Ukraine and FTX back in March pulls up some very concerning red flags for me as it pertains to the Democratic Party in the United States right now. If you'd like to hear my full opinion on that, please check out the clip that is on Twitch. But if we get hit, like a full, there is something to be said for the fact that I see it like this. Okay, so I'll give you guys the spiel that I've been given on Twitch, right? I'll give you guys this, all right? I think that finance will essentially be exactly like what we saw with social media here recently. What do I mean by that? Well, in the early days of social media, anything that was banned or anything that was anybody that was banned or any kind of thing that was censored, the right, the political right, the red team, right? They would say, well, it's a private company and a private company has the right to do what they want to do. Therefore, they have the right to basically restrict your speech. The left didn't really agree with this early on, right? Like initially the left was like, no, we need to figure out how to make companies that operate within the U.S. that control social media have some sort of free speech. So initially, basically, liberals pro-free speech on websites, conservatives anti-free speech on websites based on company ownership. And then what happened was the liberals took over all social media. A majority of people that worked for companies like Twitter, etc., typically leaned left. They started basically restricting the speech of conservatives on their platform to the point of banning them and so on, that sort of thing. This is just, by the way, this is theory. I don't really actually give two about the actual arguments, meaning like I don't need to argue with you over who's correct about abortion or whatever the political argument is. This is just giving you guys the layout because you need to understand what's happening there to understand where my reasoning for crypto is, okay? So you have Liberal Party in charge now. Now the conservatives go, well, we need to decentralize and we need to have other platforms, options like Mastodon, whatever it is, Minds, that sort of stuff. Conservatives start doing that. Then Elon Musk buys Twitter, okay? And now you have the complete opposite. Now that the conservatives are in control, luckily, for the most part, a lot of the political right are still for this, and this is why it's important, right? Is they've seen the bad side where they get censored, so now they're kind of still, yes, they got a little bit of control. Who gets really mad? Well, the political left, right? The blue team. Blue team gets really, really mad, right? And they go, they're like, well, now they start saying things like, I see all of them being like, oh, we need to move to Mastodon. And I'm like, great, yes. You see it. Both sides see it now. Both sides are like, oh, bing, light bulb went off. We need to decentralize and have our own individual platforms. So they got it. They got the plot. Both sides got the plot, but what it took was the other side persecuting the other side. So how does that play out with finance? Well, if we get to the point to where I think we're at, which is right now in October, we have the Fed now payment system being tested in the US. We have the UK talking about CBDCs. We already have China deploying CBDCs. The UK has specifically said they want to copy China's version. China's version includes something that is known as a social credit score. In the US, this would be a political tool. So let's say you have the Fed and it is controlled by conservatives at the time that essentially the CBDC rolls out, okay? And the conservatives decide that they're going to censor any speech that they don't agree with. Let's take let's say they're going to basically ding your credit score for being pro-choice, right? So they start dinging your credit score because you're pro-choice and you talked about it on the internet, and therefore the current political party that's in charge doesn't like that and they ding you. Well, the people that are getting dinged that are pro-choice, they're going to start opting out of the CBDC system. And where do you opt out to? You opt out to cryptocurrency, okay? So then the political pendulum, as it always does, swings the other way. The liberals take control and they start dinging the social credit score of essentially the pro-lifers for the conservatives or whatever. And the conservatives go, oh crap, I don't want to participate in this. I need to participate in something else. And they move outside the system with something like Bitcoin. So what I see happening in social media, which we can see, I see happening within cryptocurrency in general. That's how I see this playing out, at least in the US. Unfortunately, that does mean that you have a pendulum swinging from one extreme to the other over and over and over again. Fifth Nail says, $5 super chat says, thanks for everything you do. Thanks for watching and supporting the channel, my man. That'll be the most money we made today. $5. Holla for $5. So far. XRP the Goat says, that's something like 442 mega hash a second at 60 watts, 3070 on Caspa is now profitable. You're doing 442 mega hash a second at 60 watts. It's interesting. At the wall. Dev Derek says, that's Sound Tech. If you were to scale a mining farm right now, what equipment would you be picking up? That's an extremely good question because there is the argument that you're going to be in a position to essentially be able to afford and stack Bitcoin miners, which means you get to play with the big boys potentially if you have enough capital. If you don't have enough capital right now and you're wanting to stack, and you want to stack actual GPUs or something like that, that becomes an interesting question as well. 3070 is always good, but if you could start to get some of these CMP 170Xs and stuff like that, it'll be interesting. It comes down to a price to performance thing, right? At the end of the day, your goal ultimately is to have enough equipment to power on for the next bull run, or that's what my goal would be. So for now, I sit on my equipment, right? I just hodl the silicon. In the future, maybe that changes, right? Bitcoin's really, really competitive though. So if you wanted to do ASICs that aren't competitive, you could do the script ASICs if the prices ever come down. I mean, like we saw on MinerStat, really, if you're mining Dogecoin, it's only making what is this? On Digibyte and Doge, $18 a day. I mean, maybe this comes down a little bit further. Dev Derek says, ask Summit if you were to scale them. Yeah, we talked about that. Village BC says, ask Summit, do you think FTX failure will push back any crypto recovery by months or years? No, I think it's par for the course. Edward McLean says, at Summit did you already review Eric Voris' sophistry and the Savior on the blog Money and State? No, I have not. Cheerish says, at Summit have you looked into CPU mining at all? Yeah, but I just default to Rabbit. I'm not going to do it personally. It's not scalable. Unless you're buying even if you're buying servers, it's not really scalable. Bojangle says, when will you start Rumble streaming? So the Rumble stream is specifically for gaming. That's the deal. And I'll let you guys know sometime later this week. Stick Shark says, at Summit what would you do if you were accidentally sent $1 million to your crypto wallet, then asked for it to be returned? Charge them a return fee? In a lot of cases, these are being asked to be returned under legal circumstances. So yeah, I would just return it. What's $1 million if you're dead or in jail? Not worth a lot if you're dead or in jail. Yeti Crab says, at Summit I just discovered Caspa isn't mineable on the Vega GPUs. Am I missing something? I think that there is Vega GPU support, but I don't remember which miner. Probably need to check that for sure. Gandalf Gray says, I had this conversation this morning with the work demo. They tried to attack FTX when I bet that hurt your crypto. So I said, well, FTX went down, which hurt your dem donors. Banned off YouTube. Come on, you can't be talking about that. Any thoughts on the Exodus wallet? No. Shio Kelt says, at Summit I was looking for Caspa address for donations as a thank you for the Caspa mining on the node tutorial. Yeah, I need to spin up a second wallet. I'll do that at some point. A wallet just for donations, I should say. Detroit Irish says, at Summit how long can you see an S19 Pro going for? How low? Let's say $8 a terahash. I don't know. Do you think $8 a terahash? 114 times 8. I don't know. $1,000? $900? Fundamental says, at Soat, are you still sponsored by Crypto.com? I was never sponsored by Crow, by the way. And then we stopped the partnership with Crypto.com back in... The last month they paid for was September. We talked about all that. I mean, that's part of the reason I got a day job. Their budget, they couldn't budget $1,750 for a content creator anymore, and they tricked me out of my contract. So I had a contract. My representative left, and when he left, I got a new representative. I had a year contract through May of 2023. They told me I needed to sign a new contract. The new contract was only for 3 months. And then they dropped me. I should have read the contract. I didn't realize that they were playing games. But they were playing games. And then they just told me that for the new renewal, they just couldn't afford it anymore. Which, if a large multi-million-dollar company can't afford $1,750 a month, I mean, obviously, I know they have different margins and whatever. So, I mean, obviously, perfect timing too, right? I'd hate to be running advertisements for them when all this is going on and not know exactly what's happening with them. That being said, so everybody's fully aware of the bias and all of that. It's really hard to tell if Crypto.com is actually in a position where they're in trouble. Now, I will say that as part of their sponsorship, they always paid in their own token, which was kind of interesting. But, yeah. Yeah, I think they're just cutting costs around the whole thing. Right? It's self-preservation. So you get it. Like, luckily, all that means is that I can fully report on them and I don't have to worry about anything. So I think it's a net positive. I think having a day job is a net positive. You know, I don't have to worry about, I don't know, a lot. I have to worry a lot less right now, which is good. Uh, 10 series doesn't have the memory lock URL, but I think it has core lock. Mining Bay says, Asamatech, when do you think Caspa will get listed on other exchanges? I don't think that you want it listed on any other exchanges right now. Crypto Mikkel, welcome to the stream. Make sure you guys go follow Crypto Mikkel. He's going to post a link to his channel here in a little bit. Make sure you guys go sub to him. And then Detroit Irish says, Asamatech day job is just in time for health insurance renewals. Yeah, I know, right? SickTech says, Asamatech, at what point would you consider selling off some of your GPUs? No point at all, ever. Thanks. I luckily I practice what I preach. I own all of my GPUs outright. And for the time being, I'm just going to live at the farm, which means that my rent is, you know, bounce between here and living at my parents' house, which means my rent is essentially, like, technically cheaper than it would be if I actually rented a place. So I don't have to do anything. I don't have to sell anything. I didn't take anything. My only liability, my only debt is the lease. I own all my equipment outright. So for me, it's not a loss to sit on it for, I mean, yeah, we're going to have to sit on it for like 2.5 years. But we'll be fine. 2 years. A little less. We're running out of time. Thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, notification bell down below. I'm going to get ready for a meeting. Once we're done for the meeting, I will be going live on Twitch to give you guys an update on what is happening with the rest of the channel, everything that we do over on Twitch. So be ready to tune into twitch.tv/blindrun a little bit later. And I will get you guys the update, but that's going to be a little bit later. Thanks for watching, guys. You can ask more questions over there later. I do just have a meeting that I got to get to. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next Tuesday.